We may all want to change the world, but we would like to do it in a nice, deliberate, calm, kind way. So welcome to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student of nature-led gardening and a person who knows that my individual health is linked to the health of water. Water is life. Water is love. Water is love. That's a new expression, but it's a new film that's also being released on March 22nd, 2025. So, and I don't know if I have the, but if we could host a public screening of this, if anyone's interested, just reach out to me, Laura at AM 950 Radio. But you can go and learn more about the film at waterislovefilm.org. waterislovefilm.org. So Food Freedom Radio, the whole idea is that we are grounded on that we need a food system that honors water. And yet we know the outcomes of conventional egg, nitrates in the water, dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, microplastics. In fact, there was a new study I just saw on LinkedIn. I haven't had a chance to go to the source, but this was from, is quoted Genomic Press, Genomic Press. But it says when you drink a bottle of water from a plastic bottle, you're getting 90,000 particles of microplastics. And if you drink from something else, like still, you're getting 4,000. So drinking from bottled plastic waters is a bad idea. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for your health. And actually, it costs a lot of money. So if you're drinking from plastic bottles, unless it's an emergency, and there's always, unless it's an emergency, really try to, those microplastics are heart-wrenching when you learn about those. But March 22nd is World Water Day. And water is a very, very complicated topic. And it's one of these topics that the more you learn about, the more you realize you do not know. So with us today is an educator. Could I call you a water educator?
You absolutely can, yes.
So we have a water educator in studio. Your name is Mitchell LeGrand, and you're with something called H2O for Life Schools.
Yes. I am the program manager at H2O for Life Schools, which is a nonprofit based here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, who educates youth about the global water crisis and issues connected to access to clean water and gives them avenues to take action. And so really passionate about that and really grateful that you're having me on today. So thank you.
Well, I'm grateful they could be here because it is World Water Day, and World Water Day is it's a global event, and we need a global consensus as human beings, as animals on water. We need to find a way of honoring water, and there's so many problems with water. So I want to start with just a little background. What's your personal background?
Yeah, my personal background. So for me, I grew up in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, right? Water is a huge part of our culture here and our understanding of things. And in my background in education, I went to school for global studies, and so I was very interested in global issues affecting a lot of people and how to create systems change to address some of these big systematic issues. And I also studied education and how to empower youth to make change, right? I'm very passionate about helping youth understand these problems and take action on them. And one of the cool things about working on water in particular is because water is so essential to our life, and it plays so many roles in so many different things. It is like I also get to be a climate educator and a social studies educator and all of these different things. And water is a topic that is connected to so many other things. So it's touching on a lot of stuff. And so, yeah.
So tell us about this organization, H2O for Life Schools.
Yeah. So H2O for Life Schools, what we do is we provide free resources to schools, youth, communities who want to learn a little bit more about global water issues. So if you were to visit our website, you can find lesson plans for K through 12 classrooms across disciplines, sciences, social sciences, health, etc. And you could use those in your classroom. You could call me or one of my colleagues in to come and give free classroom presentations. All sorts of different resources. Our hope is that youth are excited and want to take action on what they're learning. So the second part of our program, you can actually go and explore another part of our website that has a bunch of projects, international and national projects around access to clean water and sanitation, and you can support them with a project at your school where you raise funds to help make that water project possible. It's kind of complicated. It's kind of a long source. But
everything is complicated,
yeah.
But that whole idea of taking action is so important. I was listening to Otto Schwarmer. He's got a book out. He's going to have a new book out. But one of the things that he quotes is that, if you look at the global studies on, the vast majority of us, we want to clean water and we want a clean, livable planet. And if you ask people, do you want to solve the climate crisis? The majority of us would say, yes,
yeah.
We do. However, do you feel like you have any agency or power or anything you can do? And most of us will say no.
Yeah.
And that feeling of helplessness is one, it doesn't help get work done, but it's also depressing. So this idea of empowering people to actually take real action around the water crises.
Yeah. Something that's really fun about working with youth is that youth don't have their biases set up yet. Like youth never say, oh, we should do that, but, right? Like youth are just like, yes, that's a problem. We should fix that right now. And that is such a fun part of my job is like, I run like a part of what I do is I run a high school fellowship program, and I get to work with about 50 high schoolers from across the country, across the world. And we talk about issues related to water a little bit more in depth. And they are so excited to like get going and do something about this. And they all come with like different backgrounds from different places, different understandings about different issues, and exchange those ideas and work with each other to help each other like take action. It's super cool.
It's super cool. Enthusiasm, knowledge, and community. I mean, those are the cornerstones for creating that agency that can actually impact the world. So, so let's take a step back. Tell us about what was the H2O for Life Schools? What's the organizational structure? How long has it been around? And
yeah, H2O for Life Schools has been around, I want to say it's 14 years now. It was founded by an educator from Mounds View, Minnesota. She had a husband who was a pilot, and so she traveled around a lot, and she ended up visiting Kenya quite a bit because she made a bunch of friends there. And when she left Kenya after one of her trips, one of her friends called her and said, we have a community here that's really struggling with access to clean water and sanitation. We're looking for anyone who can help us out. Is there any way that you can like participate? And she was like, well, maybe we're talking about like water in our classrooms. Maybe we can like tie something in. And she ended up doing this fundraiser for it. And she raised enough to not just do that project, but like the 3 other communities around that area that also needed access to clean water and sanitation. And then she started getting a bunch of phone calls from implementers who were like, hey, like, we heard about what you did. Like, we've been trying to get into schools to teach students about these and teach people about how they should take action and stuff. Can we join in? And it just kind of spread from there. And from going from like just one community with one organization to, I think we're at 44 different countries that we're in, including the United States. And I think I can't remember how many organizations. I think we're close to like 78 different organizations that we've worked through over the years who are implementing like on the ground in those communities, doing cool work like that. And so that's how long we've been around and kind of how we got started. So
I love those stories.
Yeah.
Those are so neat. I mean, and that's the power of agency and just one foot in front of the other. You don't know where it's going to quite go, but you just do one foot. You find a problem and you solve it. So now you've been going into classrooms. So a water educator.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're your students. Educate us on water.
Yeah, the place where we start is asking students a little bit about what they already know about water, and it varies from classroom to classroom, but we get a lot of students saying, yeah, we need to drink water, and not everyone has it, and that's a problem. And we move on from there to talk about, what is the problem? And the truth is that 26% of the world's population struggles with access to safe, clean drinking water. They can't just go into their kitchen and turn on the tap and get a glass of water. They might have to walk a far distance to collect water and bring it back. That water might not be safe to drink, so you have to sanitize it somehow. You have to filter it somehow, and it is an imperfect process, especially in the communities that we work in. They tend to be very rural, very impoverished communities who don't have the money for water infrastructure, so a lot of things they don't have the money for. So we talk about that. We talk about sanitation access, which is an even more difficult conversation because it's about 46% of the world's population doesn't have access to safe sanitation systems. So nowhere to wash your hands, no toothpaste to brush your teeth with, no safe bathrooms. Bathrooms are a really big thing. A lot of people don't realize that some of our most important projects are actually bathroom projects. And then obviously, we are founded by an educator. We are educators at H2O for Life. If you visit our website and look at the projects that we are supporting and working on, almost all of them are at schools because 29% of schools around the world lack access to one or more of those things around safe, clean water, and it affects students' ability to get a quality education and thus their ability to fix these problems in their own communities, right? And so that's kind of why we focus in on either schools or areas with high youth population.
So give us an example of a school so you're talking about almost a third of schools globally doesn't have water. So what does that look like?
Yeah, that looks like starting your day going to a school where, in Minnesota, we offer free breakfast and lunch to students, right? we're able to do that because there is running water in our cafeterias, right? They do not have a cafeteria at their school necessarily. Our students get to take a bathroom break whenever they want. Some of the schools we work in don't have a bathroom for the students to go use. Students miss school because they get sick for whatever reason, right? You're more likely to get sick if you don't have somewhere to safely wash your hands. Instead of recess, you have to go collect water and bring it back and figure out what you're going to use it for. You have to spend part of your day instead of learning or playing or being a kid, and you have to spend it doing this really hard chore. And that's a problem for us. Like we think youth should be engaging in their education and playing and being goofy and being kids and not having to do silly, hard chores that we have the means to fix. And so, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. You know?
Okay. And so so when you go into the classroom, tell us again about what type of things do you talk about?
Yeah. So we offer a variety of presentations through H2O for Life. They're all free for schools to use or communities to use. Anyone can book us. Nationally or internationally. I've taught all over the place. We teach virtually as well. So, but we do science presentations where we'll talk about water quality science and why that's such an important thing to know. A lot of schools want to talk about things like Flint, Michigan, and we make that connection there, talking about what does this kind of testing have in like real world applications. We might talk about the climate and how our changing climate is affecting people's access to clean water and how people are moving.
We're going to take a break. We're talking to a water educator, Mitchell LeGrand, and it's World Water Day. March 22nd is World Water Day. So we'll be right back.
It's plain to see the love lights go now in your eyes.
Put up a parking lot. Trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
You don't know what you don't know what's gone until you don't know what you've lost until it's gone. And right now in our country, we are facing an incredible disruption in our systems. I mean, it's and even I start the show with John Lennon's song, we want change. But again, the change that I'd like to see is more equity. I'd like to see a livable planet. I like to see people kind. I don't necessarily want to see what's occurring right now. But so we have news out that the Department of Education might be limited. We have dramatic funding, US aid being cut globally. Now, you're in a position where some of this stuff affects you. Or H2O Life is in a position that some of the stuff affects you or impacts you.
Yeah, we are an organization. We're a nonprofit organization, and so grants like that are very important to us around education, right? We have a grant right now that's with the White Bear Lake School District here in Minnesota, and that's going to come through this year, but next year, we don't know, right? There's a lot of mystery around what funding is going to look like for us. And then on the opposite side of what we do when it comes to international aid work, there's a lot of questions about, with freezing of aid and international relations, how is that going to affect our implementing partners and the ways that they're able to do their work for those of them that are international, right? So, yeah, there are some questions that are unanswered that are leaving us wondering what we're going to be doing, but...
Well, and I think, people just aren't aware of these organizations, or and there's a lot to be aware of. So,
yeah.
but can you share some stories? And let's start with the one in U.S. aid on water. Has the United States tried to work to solve some of the water problems in the world?
Yeah, the United States does a lot of international work. For us, we tend to work much more with NGOs than government institutions. We're not calling the State Department and working on those things. Our implementing partners might be. We tend to work more directly with them. And so far, most of them say it's okay. The one concern that they have at the moment is around a system called MWater, which helps monitor the systems that are being put in and how water is running through those systems. And so that is one space where we have a little bit of concern. And we're not sure what it's going to look like because things are very unsure right now and kind of go back and forth. It's very confusing.
So what is MWater?
Essentially, it's a technology that helps us kind of monitor I'm trying to think of an equivalent example. You know, on the side of your house where there's like the little thing that says how much water you've been using. It's like that. It tells us like how that system is working. You know, if the pressure is low and we have to do something to fix the well or the bathroom or the hand washing station, whatever it is, stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to your water educator. So what type of issues occur globally around water?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Where to start with that one? Yeah. When it comes to issues around access to clean water, we try really hard to make the distinction for people between what is physical water scarcity and what is economic water scarcity, right? So physical water scarcity is about our environment. There's not a lot of lakes, rivers, and ponds in this environment or groundwater. What are the issues connected to that? That tends to be a very environmental question about, you know, our geographies and the systems we build to address not having water there. Economic water scarcity is when there is water in the environment, but we don't have the money or the resources to access that water safely or efficiently. And those things sometimes overlap, but those are different problems and they require different solutions. And so at H2O for Life, we tend to more often work on economic water scarcity issues because there's only so much you can do when there's not water in the environment, right? So yeah, that's kind of the distinction that we make. And those different things contribute to them, right? Physical water scarcity is affected a lot by climate change. Over here, economic water scarcity is affected a lot by conflict in politics and economics. And so we run across a lot of topics in the classroom.
So when you go to a classroom, what age groups are you going into, and then what type of things are you sharing with them?
Yeah, we are. It's super fun. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm kind of like the fun uncle teacher. I get to teach K through 12, and we have a variety of different topics that we talk about. Obviously, a third grader has a very different level of understanding than a high schooler, but we do kind of talk about the same things, right? We talk about what are you using water for? How much water are you using? How are these problems affecting people around the world? And when we get to that high school level, we can talk very granularly about specific geographies and use higher level languages, right? At the middle school level, you're starting to develop your understanding of social justice, and so we start talking about things like what's a good example? We talk about inequality, and we talk about how some people have access to clean water and some people don't, and why are those the case in certain places. We might not have that conversation in elementary school, but middle, high school, we start talking about those things a little bit more.
So maybe we'll do it this way. Let's pretend we're in school. We're going to go an elementary school, middle school, and high school, and we're going to just listen to our water educator.
Okay.
So let's just start with the elementary school. So when it comes to water education issues around the globe, what would you talk to? I mean, it's a personal water use too,
Yeah, I could tell you some really fun elementary school stories.
Let's find one.
I was in a classroom and I had a student, and one of the things we ask elementary schoolers is what's a way that you can conserve water in your own life? And this elementary school student was in the front row just being like, pick me. And I was like, what do you think? And I was in a northern suburb of Minnesota, of the Twin Cities, and this student said, we should all be going vegan. And I was like, do you even know what a vegan is? And they're like, yes, it is someone who doesn't use animal products. I just watched a documentary with my brothers, and it's a great way to save water. You're a vegan, right? And I went, well, it's more nuanced.
But being vegan is a great. I mean, that was actually a very profound answer from an elementary school student.
It was a great answer, and I went home and I had an identity crisis because I'm not a vegan. I am now a vegetarian because it's more nuanced. But that's what we might talk to them about is what ways can you personally conserve water and why you should care about other people not having access to it and things like that. I know all the statistics and I do eat some meat too, but
but yeah, eating vegan because the dominant food system we've talked about, nitrates in the water, just the way the system is, but the animal agriculture is just bad for water.
Yes, yeah, and it's kind of funny. It's not usually in the way that people think. A lot of the water usage that goes into the big farming meat industries, a lot of it was water waste actually in growing the wheat, right? Because we don't eat alfalfa like animals do, and so we have all this farmland dedicated to a water-intensive crop to support our consumption of meat, and that's just one of the huge ways we waste water that we have. That could be a little bit more efficient in our societal systems. We don't talk about that with the third graders, but apparently they're thinking about it. So
that was great. So,
So-
what other things might you say in elementary school when it comes to water?
Yeah, and in elementary school, we will talk about a lot of students will be reading certain books about this, and we'll talk about, okay, what book are you reading? A lot of elementary schools read this book called A Long Walk to Water. It takes place in South Sudan. It's about a lost boy in South Sudan and his experience with the conflict there. It's a true story, and this guy actually goes back to South Sudan afterwards, and he starts an organization called Clean Water for South Sudan, who's one of our implementing partners. And we talk about how, yes, this is a real person you just read about. This is a real problem, and you can take action and help. And all of the elementary school kids go, "Oh my God, he's real! Salva, do you know him?" And they get really excited about actually connecting what they're learning to that problem and being able to address it. And so that's always a really fun thing in elementary schools.
Is water the uniter of the global community?
Yes.
We have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about water as the uniter. Water is life. Water is love, which is a new movie out March 22nd. You're listening to us on World Water Day. Food Freedom Radio. I'm with a water educator.
All the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charge the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They pave paradise, put up a parking lot.
Ooh, we're not going to pave paradise and put up parking lots anymore. We're going to wake up and realize that water is life, water is love. I hope. But anyhow, you're listening to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Headland. I'm joined by a water educator, Mitchell LeGrand. He works for H2O for Life Schools, which is a nonprofit located here in Mounds View. Had a wonderful orientation. Or it started because, well, tell us the starting story again, because that was a cool story about how it started.
Yeah, well, we were founded by an educator who was traveling internationally. Her husband was a pilot, and she ran into a friend in Kenya who she visited a few times, and he reached out asking for support on a water project in their local community. And so she said, we're teaching about water right now. Maybe we can talk about this in the classrooms and try and do a little fundraiser. And she ended up raising enough money to not just help that community, but 3 other communities around it. Made an incredible difference. And people just started reaching out to her afterwards. A bunch of implementers who were like, we would love to have an education wing to what we do. So,
and if our listeners want to go on your line, they can just see all the stories. So tell us how they find out about the work that's being done.
Yeah, you can visit h2oforlifeschools.org. I know it's long. There's a lot of water nonprofits, but but you can go check out our resources. They're all free. All the lesson plans are free. All the presentations are free. We present at schools, but we also do community groups, Rotaries, Lions Clubs, things like that. Anyone who wants to talk about it, I will make the time for. And so lots of free resources, and also anyone can go and click on that Explore Projects tab at the top left-hand corner of our website. And support a project. You don't necessarily have to be a school to do that. So if you feel passionate about this and want to make a difference, you can absolutely go and do that.
Okay. And so we're going to, in the last segment, we're going grade by grade. So we talked about elementary school. You'd go in elementary schools and have certain presentations for elementary schools. Now let's move up to the higher ed, the middle school and the high school. So what do you do for the older students?
Yeah. So middle school, high school, we can start having some deeper conversations around water sciences and water quality. And so we will go in and we will do a lab around water quality testing. And we will talk about, the oxygen levels in the water and the pH levels in the water. So what we like to do is a kind of a back-to-back with a science class and a social science class. So we'll do that in science classroom, and then in the social science classroom we'll talk about what's a real-world scenario where this occurred, right? And so we talk about things like Flint, Michigan, right? These students yesterday, they did some tests on the pH. They learned about, acidity. And now that we're in the classroom talking about Flint, Michigan, those same tests were done to understand that problem and that issue that affected a lot of people, right? And so what you just did, that very basic thing that you did in 30 minutes, had someone done that in the real world, we could have avoided a huge, national crisis.
You know what? I'm like, what? So you mean, tell me more about that. The whole problem with Flint, Michigan is they didn't do a very simple test that you could do in a middle school?
Yeah, essentially. They were doing water quality tests. They should have done something to adjust. With Flint, Michigan, they switched from one water resource to another. They switched from a lake to a river, and what they didn't do is adjust the chemicals to adjust the pH. And so the water was slightly more acidic, and as it went through those lead pipes, that acidity caused some of the lead pipes to begin to corrode, and that's how lead kind of got into the water, right? And citizen scientists went and did work on that to bring the proof forward that the state wasn't taking care of that issue, right?
So we do have a caller right now. Doug is going to be joining us from H2O for Life Schools. Hi, Doug. Welcome to Food Freedom Radio.
Hey, how are you doing today, Laura?
Great. And Mitchell's been doing a great job of telling us a little about yourself. But so tell us a little bit about H2O for Life Schools and your role and anything else you want to say about it.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me. Very excited to talk to your listeners today about H2O for Life. We are a 501c3 organization founded here in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, but we have a national footprint in the school systems and also an international impact where we work with schools all around the world that need access to water, sanitation, and hygiene interventions is how we like to talk about it. So we got started here in 2007. Local educator Patty Hall up in Mounds View schools ended up on a trip to Africa meeting a fantastic individual that we're still working with today, whose community in Kenya needed access to a water system to help provide water for their schools. And she brought that back to the Highview Middle School up there and was able, the project itself was going to cost about $6,000 to fund, and they ended up raising somewhere around 12 or 13 for that project. And so needed to find other different ways to get that money out to help other schools around in those communities. And one thing led to another. They got a little press coverage, just like shows like yours. A lot of teachers found out about it. Patty started getting all these inquiries. How did you do this? That sounds amazing. What can we do? How can we do what you did? And she turned this into a great nonprofit that's been around for coming up on 18 years now. So we're very excited to be started in this community, started here in Minnesota, but the impact we have. And Mitchell, I'm sure, is talking about all the different schools that we've been working with around the country over the years, and then our great implementing partners all around the world. So one of the things about us that we just want to make sure people understand, I'm not out there digging wells. Mitchell's not digging wells or building bathrooms or doing things like that. We're working with groups in these local communities that come to us and say, hey, this is the water solution that we need for our community in rural Uganda, in the Navajo Nation, in Nicaragua, Honduras, all over the world. And they come to us and say, hey, can you help us fund this project? And we work to inspire young folks here in the U.S. To make that impact and to raise funds to make that happen, and really working to build that next generation of global citizens, whether they're taking on the water issue moving forward, or if they're, just use that as a springboard to learn some tools, and they're going to be working on climate change, or they're going to be working on women's issues or sustainable communities or anything like that. We're just really excited to be working with young kids here in our communities.
Now, I think I should be a global citizen because, well, I am a global citizen. And whether I walk up into that role, we're all global citizens, whether we walk in that path or not. But let's talk a little bit about the meaning about being a global citizen, and why do you think it's important to have a responsibility or to recognize our role as global citizens?
Well, I think, for me, my background, my parents were both public school teachers in St. Paul. I grew up in White Bear as well. And it's just something that's always been ingrained in me, right? That the interconnectedness of all of us around this world. One of my heroes growing up, Senator Wellstone, we all do better when we all do better. And the fact that this is such an important issue, water access is really at the root of all of the different pieces that folks are trying to work on to help lift up the sustainable development goals for our world. And honestly, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how we want to operate in the world, how we want our children to think about the world, and what that means for our country overall. And you cannot downplay the national security issues that come along with these issues and problems. When we have diseases that are spread because we don't have clean water in places like Uganda, how fast did those kind of pieces spread with the Ebola crisis hitting Texas within weeks, things like that, And as we do these interventions, even though the direct recipients may be right not anywhere near thousands and hundreds of, thousands of miles away, that has a very quick ripple effect into our community when we're talking about, spreading of disease, any kind of, just having the U.S. have a good national presence in the rest of the world is so critical right now in the turbulent times we're in. And
yeah,
it's just...
and we're there's news out this week that elimination of the Department of Agriculture, dramatic cuts on USAID funding. Do you want to just comment on some of those activities?
Yeah, for us, we believe in the idea of strength through peace. That's really a huge piece that we work on. The U.S. Global Leadership Coalition is something we're proud members of that has really been focused on how are we projecting that power without our military to the rest of the world and have that influence that we really need to have. And these cuts to USAID and the freezing of the funding really gets to the core of that. The one thing I will say, the shining star that I see out there that's helping me lead the way is our kids are really stepping up. Washington may be debating these issues and the level of impact that it has and the effectiveness of the work that's being done. But at the end of the day, our kids understand this is about helping other people, and they're excited to do it. And they're out there raising funds. We've got a great project in our communities going all around here in the metro area and all around the state, where these kids are really showing that it doesn't really matter what people's titles are. Everyone can be a leader on these issues, and these kids are leaders when it comes to helping the U.S. have that good international brand out there and making sure that everybody has access to clean, safe drinking water and bathrooms.
And I like that you said it doesn't matter what title you have, because we are kind of in a selfie culture, and I think that actually hurts our whole systems in so many ways. But the idea of trying to get to a place of belonging is, and that's, I think, what the kids, like even when you were saying elementary school kids, they kind of get it naturally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we have about 2 more minutes. Mitchell or Doug, do you have anything else you'd like to say? And then Mitchell is going to come back with us, and we're going to finish our education on water. But is there anything else you'd like to say in the next 2 minutes? Doug, I'll throw it over to you. I've been talking, so.
Yeah, I think for us, honestly, we just love getting out there. If folks that your listeners, if there is a school, if there are educators on listening or youth group leaders or anything like that, or even young people themselves, we love to get out into the community. Mitchell can talk more about, the direct impact that he gets to have when he's in classrooms and doing that work. And we just love to hear more from you. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can go to our website, h2oforlifeschools.org. Or just Google H2O for Life, and we'll be right up there on the top. And come check us out. Please engage with us. We want to spread this message and make sure that everybody understands how critical this work is and really the impact that people can have with such a small investment, and what a big impact that can be when it comes to water.
And then it's World Water Day. So, and do people, does that anchor some conversations globally? Does that help? Raise the issue globally?
It does, absolutely. We got a big campaign that we run between World Water Day and Earth Day. It's a great opportunity to kind of get these issues out in front of people, and news media is a little more interested in what we're talking about and everything. And so it really helps. And, the great piece, too, is a lot of our corporate partners are out there really lifting up this issue right now as well. So it's a great opportunity for us to showcase not just the work we're doing in schools, but the work that's happening throughout our entire community through our corporate partners like Pentair and some of these other big groups here in Minnesota that are just such amazing folks to work with.
So thank you so much, Doug, for joining us. You're the Executive Director of H2OForLifeSchools.org. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with our water educator. And then we're going to go to high school after Nest. So You're listening to Food Freedom Radio on AM 950. We'll be right back. to Food Freedom Radio. I'm Laura Hedlund, a student in nature-led gardening, a person who knows the health of the water is my health, water is life, water is love. Water is Love is a new movie being released today, March 22nd. You can get information by going to thewaterislovefilm.org. And then if people want to talk about getting together to watch this film, reach out to me, Laura at am950radio.com. And so I've been joined with Mitchell LeGrand. He's with H2O for Life Schools. He's a water educator, and he took us through elementary school. Now we're in the middle school and high school. So tell us about how H2O for Life School works with older kids.
Yeah, so one of my favorite program, kind of my baby of H2O for Life, is our high school fellowship program. So we started this about 4 years ago, and what we do is we take about 50 students from around the world, mostly United States, but we do get students from other countries as well who participate in it, and they meet every few weeks over Zoom, and what we do is we talk about water issues a little bit more in depth. We give them the tools to lead projects in their own communities, and every session they get to hear from what we call an impact speaker, so someone who is working on water from a different career field, and sometimes it is a lawyer talking about indigenous water rights. Sometimes it is an engineer talking about doing projects internationally. Sometimes it is a social entrepreneur, a nonprofit leader. Last week we had a documentarian talking about storytelling. So students really get to see that they can make a change from their area of passion or their strengths on topics that they care about. And we obviously frame this around water, but it can be applied to any issue that they care about. And so it's a really fun time.
Wow. And so obviously they're doing this virtually, and they're talking with people around the world and learning about people who have used their agency and have created careers around clean water.
Yeah. It's
Jeez, could you imagine we had an economy structured on people working for clean water?
I know. It'd be pretty great. And, kind of on that topic, I actually just got an email this morning, and I'm meeting with this student right after our conversation today. I had a student who was a fellow last year. She was in North Carolina, and she's in college now. And she just did a study abroad program in Quito, Ecuador, and she was doing clean water analysis and working on pollution issues for clean water there. And she was originally going to school for computer science, and she is changing her major because she was like, I didn't realize how important or cool this was going to be. And one of the speakers that spoke during this program is actually helping her line up an internship. And she's not the only student that has had this kind of experience. And so as an educator, I always get very excited about seeing my students succeed and find direction like that. So.
Well, and I think the economic story that we're telling ourselves is, there's so many, and it's very complicated. So I'm trying to, I'm going to see if I can tell the story. Have you ever heard the story of Tiktaalik the frog?
No, fill me in.
Okay, so it's an ancient story. You just look this up. The very, very thirsty frog.
Okay.
So the very thirsty frog, he drinks all the water, right? And all the other animals are getting really upset. Not only are they getting upset, but they're like hungry and thirsty, and the plants are dying. And then what can we do? And so they get wise word from an owl that they have to make the very thirsty frog laugh. The thing is, the frog wasn't very good at laughing. He didn't know how to laugh. But finally, the little mouse found a tickling spot. So, and then he laughed, and when the very thirsty frog then was able to release all the water, and all the animals were able to get back together, and the frog learned to share. And we are living in a world with such imbalance. We have like 20,000 people that have $24 trillion in so-called wealth, whereas 165 million of us have less than $4 trillion. And so we have and yet I don't want to be blame or shame anyone, but how do we creating a culture and a business that's based on clean water? That should be Economics 101.
Yeah, when we talk about these projects, one of the cool things about water projects is it's also economic development work, right? For every dollar that you spend on water infrastructure, you get somewhere between $6.90 and $7.10 back in economic returns from the community. So there's definitely a powerful economy there.
Wow, so you mean you can make money if you are kind with water and give people water?
Yeah. And, as far as steps to building that economy and building those infrastructures, I think there needs to be recognition around what the actual problems are. Sometimes we have a hard time reckoning with who has been excluded from those economies. I mentioned that fellowship program. The speaker this weekend is from our implementing partner, Dig Deep, who do work in Navajo Nation. If you're indigenous in the United States, you are 19 times more likely to experience plumbing poverty than white households, right? And so the students will be learning about projects that are going on there and water implementation projects that are going on there. And, those are really important conversations to be like having with people.
So I haven't heard that phrase, plumbing poverty, but I also do wonder if, using water for plumbing is as wise with so many billions of people on the planet. And I know there's people that have come up, like I think it's the Brock Zoo, that their public bathrooms actually use foam flush, and they've been doing other things for that plumbing issue. I don't know if you have anything to say on that. But.
I'm not familiar specifically with that, but as far as plumbing issues go, we also love talking with our students about innovative technologies and the cool ways that we can solve some of these solutions. One of the most often asked questions I get from younger students is, why don't we just use the ocean? There's a big ocean. That seems like a lot we could use. You say we're running out, but I've seen it on the globe and it's big. And I'm like, desalination is a really cool idea and potential technological solution. I don't know that we're there to do it super efficiently yet. And there's other technologies around like plumbing and things like that. But people are working on it in different angles and different ways. And that's a really cool thing. And it's going to be different everywhere. But I'm excited about things like that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, so now we are down to our last 2 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, gosh. If you want to get involved with H2O for Life, please reach out. My job is to make educators' jobs easier. I love giving you the day off. Let me give you a free presentation for the full day. We'll talk about all these cool things, and your students are going to have a really awesome hands-on project.
And you offer these free to schools?
Yep. All of our resources at H2O for Life are free. We are very unique in that, I would say. Very few nonprofits are able to provide things for fully free, but I'm a dedicated I have stayed up overnight to teach classes over internationally. I think it is very important to talk about these things. It's free for students and teachers to use, for community groups to use. If you want to take action, explore our website. It's a little hard to navigate, but I believe in you. And if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email. It's easy to find that on the website. So
great. So again, it's just Mitchell at h2oforlifeschools.org.
Yep.
World Water Day, March 22nd, and water is life.
Yeah.
I mean, we both have water is life. What does that mean?
Water is the most essential thing to life on Earth, not just for people, but all living things. And it is connected to so many things that we do not consider. We are using it so consistently throughout our days for so many different things. We could not exist in the ways that we do without access to clean water and sanitation. Not everyone has as much access as they should. And I believe that for the life of our planet and for the life of the people on this planet, we need to be working on those things and be taking action. So,
and inspiring young people to take action and filling that agency, because when you take action, taking action relieves stress, doesn't it? I mean, it can cause stress too, but it can relieve stress.
Yes. This fellowship, I keep bringing it up. I have a bunch of students here who are anxious about the state of the world. And when they come to this space, this is a space where they can do something about it.
So do something.
Yeah.
Water is life. Water is love. World Water Day, March 22nd.